Hi, my name is Cameron Brenn, and today I'm going to be talking about a system for using digital tools, teaching them, using them in the library. So this is an issue that a lot of librarians face. We're pulled in many different directions, from managing the library to being a tech coach to just kind of all the other things that come up throughout the school day. You might have lunchroom duty or got to pick up the kids from the bus, all that. It can be a lot. And the aspect of being the digital coach can be very demanding as well. So coming up with a system that streamlines this process for selecting digital tools and getting teacher-student input and rolling them out, teaching them, getting feedback, and then making revisions if necessary. So this came up, that's what this class is about, and then using the digital tools and learning about different ones. And during my interview, I spoke with another librarian in the Madison School District. And this was definitely something we could relate to each other on a lot. And we talked about how it can be kind of hard to decide what to put your time into. There's all these different things that we can access, all these different digital tools. And we get some direction from the school district, which ones to use, and then we get some direction from teachers on what they would like to use, what would be helpful in the classroom. So bringing that all together into a streamlined system that you can follow would be extremely beneficial. We're going to go through a 7-step process here on how you can implement this system. Step 1, during a mandatory meeting, and ideally at the beginning of the school year. You might have a staff meeting that you're required to go to at the beginning of the school year. Maybe talk to your principal or talk to your instructional coach and say, could I get a portion of that time reserved for me to talk about digital tools? Or if you can't do it that time, then maybe have a staff meeting in the library after school or during a planning period. During this time, you're going to want to review all the tools that are available. So we have ClassLink as our single sign-on, and that's got all the different resources and digital tools that students and staff can access in there. So going through those, kind of giving a brief summary on what they can do and how they can be used. Listen to teachers, things that come up. Things that they would like to be able to do with their class. Maybe they want to do a podcast on a history lesson they have, or they want to design a presentation, or maybe they could do something like we have Scratch. They could make animation on something they're learning in class using Scratch. So get that teacher input, kind of start to connect the dots of what's available, what resources you have, and then how teachers would want to use it. Get an idea of what their interests are, what their ability and levels are. So they would be kind of start figuring out how simplified or complex the lessons and presentations might need to be. Okay, so now you've got that valuable data in step 1, and you're going to move on to step 2, documentation. So you're going to need to gather all the documentation that you can find on how to use these tools. You may need to create some of your own. The creating part could be extremely time consuming, so definitely where you can cut down by using either resources provided by the district or finding things online, maybe even from the developer's website or something like that, or searching on YouTube, searching the internet, and then kind of compiling that in one place. This documentation should explain how the tools are accessed. So, like I said, a lot of them will just be in ClassLink. So it'll just be that single sign-on. Or you may be using a tool, something else that teachers requested that requires going to a website or possibly having to set up an account. So you're going to want to cover all that. And then how to use the tools, of course. So you need documentation that gives a breakdown of how to use it in its most basic ways, but then also in more complex ways. And then also use cases. You want to have documentation that can show the different ways it could be used and different settings it could be used in. Okay, step 3, develop plans. So this is also going to be quite time consuming. You're going to need to review that documentation and then start to work out how you're going to present it and how you're going to create lesson plans based on it. So if it's going to be a presentation to teachers, you're going to kind of want to create like a high level slide deck or slideshow or something that goes over those points that we talked about in the documentation, how to access it, how to use it, and then different use cases to get those teachers thinking about ways that they can use it in the classroom. And then developing the lesson plans. This is something I love doing as a librarian and just as an educator, but it is one of those things that is always challenging because you want to keep it fresh. You want to keep it exciting, entertaining. You want to engage the students. So that's going to take some time to really sit down and think about maybe an activity you could tie into it or an overarching theme. And this is also going to be where that input from teachers, so what they were saying, how they want to use it, you're going to have to really take that into consideration. So like I said, if it was something like they want to do an animation based on something that they're learning in class, you're going to have to kind of work with the teacher to say, what could help you teach us? What could help this stick with the students? So that's going to take a little bit of thought and definitely some time to put that all together. Next is step 4. This is the fun part. Now you've done all the work to put the lessons, put the presentations together. It is time to present and time to teach. So if you're presenting to staff, that'll be going through, just kind of explaining how to use it, answering questions, things like that. And then with the students, if you're teaching a lesson, like I said, definitely try to make it as engaging as possible. So something that will get the kids thinking, maybe make them laugh a little bit, and roll it out. This can also be something you're going to want to not get too into the weeds and have like overwhelming amount of details. So make sure it's hands-on, especially with digital tools. Give them time to work on it. And then there's going to be issues that come up that you're probably didn't think of, is what always happens to me. So what I would also say is with the lessons is using digital tools. Sometimes it can be, as soon as you cut the kids loose, it can be kind of hard to dial it back. So make sure that they have the understanding that they need to get started before they get their hands on. But also don't take too much time before getting to that point. Because once they get going, you might really only be able to stop them like effectively like once or twice to break something else down. So try to get that fundamental understanding reached before you let them get their hands dirty. Okay, then moving on to step 5. So this is the follow-up. So you've put your lessons together, you've presented, you've done the lessons with students, you've given them that work time. Now it's time to follow up. You could do this by just having conversations with the students, with the staff, looking at what they've made with it, getting comments from teachers on what worked, what didn't. You could also do something like a survey, just provide like a brief 1 or 2 page survey asking students how like confident they felt, what they learned, if they would continue using this in the future. Or you could have that survey for teachers as well, asking similar things, what they liked about it, will they plan on using it in the future, maybe something they would like more of or less of. And then it's going to be time to review that. So that moves us to step 6, and that is the revisions. So you're going to, once you've gathered that input on the follow-up, got those comments, got that survey data, then start reviewing it. And based on that, start to go back over the lessons, make revisions, changes. Oh, this engaging activity worked so well with this class, or most students, but maybe it didn't work with a particular class or a subset of students for some reason. So take those things into account and maybe make some changes. Add some scaffolding, or think of other things that could be done to make the lesson more accessible to all the students. And finally, step 7, it is time to show off. So this idea came up from a classmate during our residency weekend, and they mentioned having a showcase. So I really love that idea, and I think that is a great way to get students to be really proud of what they made, and then show that off to other students. And then also other teachers can see, oh, this class, they were able to do this, use this digital tool this way, and made these really cool projects. So whether that's a physical space, or maybe you use like a Google Sites website, you could just kind of have links or images that showcase some of the student work. And then that is something that can be shared and reviewed in years going forward. All right, well, this is my 7-step solution to helping librarians streamline their tech coaching operation. And I know this will definitely help me, and I hope it can help you too.